So let me just start. I want to make sure that everybody knows how proud we are of all of you. You are our local heroes. We are celebrating International Women's Month, but you know what? We really consider that we have the best of the best right here in Middlesex County, and you're all here. So thank you for that. Yes, a round of applause. And I want to give a little bit of background about the Sari A. Rosenbaum Fund for Women and Girls. And I want you to picture this. So Sari was not quite 5 feet tall, but if you ever wanted a powerhouse and a bolt of lightning and getting things done, that was Sari. And a little over 20 years ago, she got 59, not 60, because she was one of the 59 of her friends and colleagues to come together and set up this fund for women and girls. And then subsequently, unfortunately, after she passed away, we named it after her because that bolt of lightning really deserved it. And the mission is to empower women and girls to reach their full potential. And you all have done it, men and women. So we're really proud of what the fund has done. And to date, over $300,000 has been invested in programs throughout the county to help young women reach their potential. It's that simple. So you all, as we think about you, our mentors, your colleagues, your heroes, your role models, your Wonder Women and Wonder Men. So we thank you for being good people doing great things. So, it's my pleasure to start and kick this off. But as I said, it's a conversation. In reading the bios, I've learned a lot of industry lingo that I didn't know, SVP, CLO, Connecticut Water, and all of these environmental things. But the one thing that struck me about both ladies, Diane and Maureen's bios, are the quote unquote soft skills, good listeners, excellent customer service skills, really good leaders, effective problem solving, so that there's a concrete resolution for everybody to feel comfortable on both sides. So thank you for that, and thank you for leading by example. So Diane, I'm going to kick it off. Hannah is going to introduce Maureen, and I'll introduce you. But we can read your bio. You're the wonderful first woman president and CEO of Essex Savings Bank in its long history, so yay. But who knew before reading your bio that you were valedictorian of your college class at Quinnipiac College. So we're humbled by all of your skills. But what I really want to know, and I hope you'll intertwine this in the conversation, is in the bio, it says you're a woman of fire.
Yes.
So, later on in the conversation, when we ask the questions, if you'd explain what a woman of fire is. We know you're on fire, but what that is too. So welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Cynthia.
Hannah?
Yeah, so Maureen began her career at Connecticut Water as manager of source water protection, and advanced throughout that and was the vice president of customer and regulatory affairs for 20 plus years before being named president in 2019. And now she's the first female president of Connecticut Water's 65-year history. She serves as the chair of the board of the Middlesex Chamber of Commerce and is on the board of directors of the Alliance for Water Efficiency. And very exciting, starting January 1st in 2023, she'll be on the Community Foundation's board.
Yay. So Hannah, you've got the first question, so kick it off.
Yeah, so to start it off, we were just wondering if the two of you could tell us a little bit about your individual career paths and how you got to where you are now.
Diane, do you want to start?
Sure. So when I was in college, my dad thought it would be a good idea, since I was studying business and economics and finance, for me to get a teller job in the summer, my freshman year. And that started my banking career. So I kept that job throughout college. And Greg Shook, who I think most of you know, was working at the bank I was working at the time. And when I graduated, they didn't have a position for me right away. So I actually left and worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield for a whopping 9 months. It was not the most fun job I've ever had. It was customer service. That was tough. And Greg called me up and said he wanted to start a management training program. And would I consider coming back and being the first candidate to go through that? So I owe a lot of my career to Greg, obviously. I went through that program there and then came out in, became a commercial lender and wanted to hone my skills a little bit more. So I left that community bank, went to another one and ran a credit department for 8.5 years. And then Greg called me again and said he was now at Essex Savings Bank. He was the president here at the time and was looking for a commercial loan officer. So I was fortunate enough to come work for Greg a second time. And, you know, my career here was great because I started as just a lender and then I became the senior lender. So I had a team of lenders under me and then took on the loan administration department and ultimately became the chief lending officer. And now was elected president. So I've been truly, truly blessed with a great career path in community banking.
Greg knew a good thing when he saw one. Maureen, how about you?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for having us here today. And the Community Foundation is just such a great organization. I always welcome the opportunity to be part of anything you guys are doing. So really proud to be here for you all. As far as my career path, it's safe to say I never envisioned being here where I am now and didn't take a particularly traditional path to get there. I'm really fortunate now to lead the team of 220 plus employees at Connecticut Water who really care about what they do and how they do it. And I honestly think of myself more as just continuing to be part of that team rather than really being the boss of anybody there because I'm surrounded by just such good people every day and really enjoy working with them. I had a lot of opportunities going through my career, working with good people, some who gave me those opportunities to advance, you know, much like Greg did for Diane, and then others who I work with every day today that I rely on to be able to do their leadership support and things that I don't really know how to do in our company, but I have great people who do it for me. So you don't have to do it all. To start, when I went to college, I thought I was going to be a special ed teacher. And I went to go down that path and quickly changed when I took some science classes and largely sparked by a really smart, unassuming professor who really was a great role model, who seemed to manage it all very well and in a way that was really kind of inspired me. So I ended up further focusing biology in college and then went on in grad school to do environmental management. And so that led me to a career in Connecticut here when I came back home, first starting in municipal and then regional planning. And then I worked for the state health department in their water supply section. So that's when I kind of fell in love with water. And you can see by my backdrop, I have reservoirs around me any chance I can. So, you know, it's just a very calming thing and a really great thing in my mind. But so when in that health department, I met some folks from Connecticut Water, interacted with them, and really thought it was a great organization. So when I had a opportunity to get a job there, even though at that time it meant a commute of over an hour a day and something I said I would never do, but I certainly did and glad in retrospect that I did. As Hannah said, when I started, I was source protection manager. So I was literally out in hiking boots and jeans and looking for failing septic systems or oil leaks in somebody's backyard that might affect our reservoir. And reviewing development proposals that might impact our water supply sources. So it was kind of neat to move from that. And, you know, some days I think I wish I was back out in the woods and just doing that stuff. And other days it's like, I can't believe the change since then. As Hannah said, you know, I had a lot of roles over that next 20 years, next part of my career. I've been there 33 years now. So for 20 years of that, I was vice president of customer service and regulatory affairs. And over time that had different things under it. Always had customer service, always had communications, but community outreach, water resource planning, conservation, regulatory affairs. I did a lot of work at the Capitol and doing some legislative stuff and always said, much to my poor mother's chagrin, I was a registered lobbyist, but I thought it was a good thing to do to work on things together up there. I think as Cynthia said, kind of at the core of all those things was really, you know, whatever job function I had, it was, you know, the core things that had to do to make it work was good communications, problem solving, and really trying to balance things and get to compromise that work for everybody there. So when Connecticut Water combined with San Jose in October of 2019, I got to become president. We're part of a bigger multi-state organization, but we really we're very intentional to say we're going to keep a Connecticut presence with Connecticut leadership and our Connecticut team. And so I was kind of that nice fit from a legacy perspective to be able to continue all those things that we'd worked so hard to build all that time over all those years. And honestly, at first, when it came out, I was very reluctant to even mention the first woman thing, and didn't want that to be viewed as the why, and really wanted to make sure that, think that I advanced in my career based on my skills, my knowledge, my working hard, and being the right person at the right time, just like any of my male counterparts. But it really struck me later how much it mattered to young women in our organization, as well as young women in our waterproof industry, how much that mattered to hear that a woman took this spot in what had traditionally been pretty male-dominated business. So that was kind of, I said, yes, anything can happen when you look at that career path. So that's how I got here.
I saw Hannah nodding her head that it is important to the young women, to all of us, that, that you did all of that. And you're right. We at some point in our lives, we're going to get rid of the first, but not yet. So we're happy you're here. So you talked about a lot of different things, both of you, that made you successful. And I think for both of you, it seems like you had really good mentors. So I'll ask the next question, and you've covered some of it already. So what do you think your mentors saw in you? What was your secret sauce that made Greg come back twice to you, Diane? Seriously, if we think about it, we've talked a lot about it, and I'm going to shut up now because you both had some really good things that we want to highlight.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer that question, but before I do, I want to echo just quickly something Maureen said that really resonated with me as well. When I got promoted to president, I did not want to be the first female president. We're a 171-year-old bank. I'm the 18th president, and people were focusing on that. And I think, like Maureen, I felt, geez, did I get this role only because I'm female? I think I got the role because I worked really hard for it. And but then someone pointed out to me that it's so important for the next generations coming up behind us. The young girls coming through school today don't know that there's such a thing as a glass ceiling, right? They know, like the young ones. I've talked to middle schoolers. They don't know that there's any limitation on anything they can be. They already know they can go right to the top, and they're expected to do that. But when we were growing up and in school, we were not expected to rise to these positions. And I'm in a really male-dominated field as well. While banking, the majority of employees in banks are female, the majority of management in banks are male. And I came through the commercial side, which is really male-dominated. And I never thought of myself as any different than my peers. And Maureen, I think you came through the exact same type of role, and I'm sure you never thought of yourself as different than your counterparts either. We come in and do our job every day, and we do it to the best of our ability. So what did Greg see in me? Look, I was a really hard worker for sure. I always wanted to learn more, do more. I was always the first to raise my hand and said, can you teach me that? Or what does that mean? Or what else can I do? And I was really, you talked about mentors when I was a teller. So here I was, a 19-year-old kid working 6 hours, 7 hours a week. So I wasn't putting in a lot of time because I was in school. My head teller recognized that I had a lot of ability. And she said to me at the time, I'm going to teach you everything I know. And then when you move on, I'm going to come to you with my questions. I'm still in touch with her today. Wow. I'm so grateful, for those opportunities because it was life-changing for me. And so if I can give some of that back, that to me is probably the most rewarding thing I can do, is do for someone else what some of those mentors. So she was even pre-Greg Shook. Obviously, Greg was a tremendous mentor, and I had one more in my role as a credit person. The person that trained me on the credit side and really honed my commercial skills was another fantastic person. And when I left and came to Essex, he said, one day you better be running that bank. And I wish I could share it with him. He has passed on, so. But anyway, I think hard work, I think being, having great mentors, being yourself, I think that's part of it too. You have to not try and be somebody you're not or something you're not. I think being yourself is one of the keys to success, really, because you can't fake it if you're trying to be somebody else.
Right. Gosh, Maureen, that's a tough speech to follow, but I'm sure you have some great things to say.
Well, I think we're very aligned here, honestly, with Diane and what her experiences there. I mean, I mentioned that first professor that was a great mentor to me. And, I went to Smith College and Gloria Steinem was there, my graduation and all these things. And it was all about, the women's, being very deliberate about it. That didn't attract me nearly as much as this one professor who she was balancing a family and life. And she was so down to earth and she got it done and didn't make a big deal about it. And similarly, I think my mother was the same way. We had a big family and she worked before a lot of women worked but made it all come together. And I never knew how hard it was for her probably as a kid. But, when you look back now as an adult and you were trying to do the same thing, it's like, yeah, that really did, it looked smooth, but there was a lot that went into it to make it happen. And so, I think of those women that have struck me in my career, and then there's a lot of, people, to your point, men that have been very good to me in my career. My first boss at Connecticut Water was just, he was one of those people that really appreciated hard work. And if you dive in and wanted to do something, and I would come to him and say, isn't it due next month? And he'd say, oh yeah, it is. You want to do it? And, you go and you do it and you deliver on it. Never, ever said the words is not in my job description. And, really just whatever had to be done, whether it was in your job description or not, you just jumped in and did it. And, they recognized and appreciated both that you were willing to do it and you delivered results when you did do it. And, it contributed to the organization. So when they were looking for somebody to do the next thing, whether it was broader scope or higher level of responsibilities, they looked to you to get that done. And I always say, when I was volunteering so much, if you want something done, ask the busy person. And I think that's kind of the truth there, is that if you want it done, go to somebody who's successfully done something else. And so I think that really, worked to my favor as I was moving up.
And thank you for that. And I know there was a wonderful comment from Maura in the chat, but what I'm taking away from this, and everybody else can raise their hand and take some, but it's, you both put the we before me and sort of this team aspect of things, that you are going, the me that you're bringing is the best that you can bring. So again, and Hannah, I think it's your turn.
Yeah. So thinking about, mentors and people who have guided you, I'm wondering what the best advice you've received throughout your careers has been, and then as well, what advice would you give your younger self?
You want to start that, Maureen?
Sure. I guess, when you think about any one thing or piece of advice you were given, it's hard to pick what that is. But I think one of the things that strikes me is kind of when hiring people, focus on their attitude and how they fit in the organization before you focus on their technical skills. You can train for those skills, but you cannot train for attitude and how you interact with the team. So, I think, and traditionally, you promote people because they were good at a job and technically good, particularly in a business like ours, but those weren't always your best leaders. And so really trying to find the right people that would, whether it's coming in new to an organization or whether it was, somebody moving up in the organization. So I think that was some really good advice I was given there. And then I think, my advice to my younger self is that, really about focusing on compromise. And, it's really not about winning necessarily. And, your greatest successes are probably at that time when everybody feels like they came out a winner and you met them in the middle there. And I said, maybe that started when I was a kid. And again, in a big family, you had to compromise just to get, what you wanted for dinner or what your chance to get the car. Somebody was fighting for it. So I probably learned it early, but it really did turn out, I think it's so important to listen and try to work with the people, probably more so the people who don't agree with you than those who do, because you learn more from that and you get probably to a better solution by trying to meet somebody in the middle who starts someplace very differently than you do. So.
Diane, anything to add?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think Maureen hit it on the head, though. I think you and I are very aligned in our, probably our growing up, if you will, through our careers. But, listening skills are absolutely critical And again, with this younger group, and I don't know if we have any, kind of up and comers really on the phone with us today, but
Oh, Hannah, raise your hand.
Hannah, raise your
Yes.
hand. One piece of advice, and this is a little bit, offbeat, but it was one I always took with me was pay attention to your body language always in all situations, right? So I learned that really young in my career. When somebody said to me, when you get nervous, you fidget or you put your hand up to your face. I was, still in college probably at the time. Pay attention to your body language and always come into all situations confident. You know what you're doing. That really comes into play in like the lending side of my career. When you meet with a client, you better show that you know what you're doing and be confident in what you have to say to them. And it goes in the exact same way when you're dealing with your superiors at work, or maybe a board of directors, or, any kind of group you're involved in. If you come across confident in yourself and knowing the message you want to convey at that time, or however that is, it's really, really important. So that was a really early piece of advice, that your younger self. Thankfully, I got that advice when I was pretty young, and I very much appreciate the boss that gave it to me at the time, because I think that was helpful. I think the other thing is, as a female, if I had to give advice to my younger self, it would be, don't be afraid to speak up for yourself and ask for that promotion, ask for that raise. Again, not playing the female card, but you look at all the news reports, right? We still make, I think I just read it the other day, even at the highest level, 83 cents for a female to every dollar paid to a male. And I hope we're crossing that line. I think we're getting closer, but I may be retired before it's true parity. So.
Oh, let's make a prediction that you won't retire before that's true parity.
I hope that's not the case, but
we'll all work hard for that.
We've come a long way.
You both mentioned attitude, and the one thing when in both of your comments that I sort of took is that you both took advice when you got it. So often, good listening, but you were open to taking advice, because I know I'm not perfect. So not that you aren't, but it was smart of you to learn how to take advice.
That was a gift from the people who are giving it to us, quite frankly. So I may not have started that way when I first got it, but you pick up whatever you can from somebody like that you saw to be successful or to be a role model to you, and just try to build on it.
So now I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and so I'm going to combine them all in one. So any regrets? I'll bunch them all together. Any regrets, and then any lessons learned from the hiccups along the way and from the successes along the way that you'd be willing to share with us?
I can start this one if you want.
Yeah. I thought I'd let you go first.
All right. And I would say I don't have any one regret, certainly, or anything I think about that way, but I often think about, and we had a fun conversation at dinner recently about this, about, kind of inflection points in your life and where you made a decision, whether it was that made a huge difference, whether it was for, my family, my career, the job you picked, one job you picked over another, making a connection with somebody that really turned out to matter, make a difference in your life, hiring one person or another, or, all those kind of things along the way that you make those decisions, and they change the course for you and for that person, and in so many ways. And at the time, you really don't know if it's better or worse, but, the other thing is, obviously you can't look back, once you've made that decision, right. You just got to make it work, whatever that turns out to be. So I'd say that's kind of how I would look at the regret thing. And I think to what Diane was just saying on the, biggest mistake or lessons learned, it was early on to maybe the missed opportunities to call out people when things weren't right, or, to speak up on something that made me uncomfortable, or I didn't think somebody was, carrying their weight, or letting things, throwing somebody else under the bus, quite frankly. So, finding the way to be able to say that in a, professional way, but to be able to call that stuff out. And I think early on, you try to just avoid the conflict. So you kind of let some of that go. But as you get more confident and see how the impacts of those things over your career, you get more comfortable speaking up and dealing with those things when they come up.
Diane, lessons learned, regrets.
Yeah, I have
Is
to
there a
say,
song about this somewhere along the line?
I looked at the biggest regret or biggest mistake, and I have to say, I have been so blessed in my career, and I'm so thankful that I don't have that big hurdle. I don't have that big regret. I've worked for 3 really wonderful community banks with teams of people in each one that I have just been so grateful to be surrounded by. And so there's no regret in any of that. There's nothing but gratitude, really. And I think I would kind of just flip that around, because I've just been so fortunate to work with people that care, with great mentors, with great customers. I have a lot of community contact, obviously. And it's just been a fantastic experience. So, I would just flip that around and say it's all, I'm not saying every day's been fun or every day's been easy. But I would say I don't think there has been that major stumbling block, and I'm very grateful for that.
It's called perseverance and tenacity. You both have it. Hannah, I think you have one more question, and then I have another question that I just thought of.
Yeah. So do either of you have any specific mottos or mantras that have helped you throughout your career? Or I think it's also kind of interesting, if you have any mementos that you've kind of brought with you from job to office, just that kind of grounds you.
Do you want me to take this one?
Go
Are you
ahead.
ready?
Go ahead.
Right. So I have, first of all, do you see this clock?
Yeah.
This clock weighs about 10 pounds. It was given to me by the gentleman that I mentioned, who said to me, I hope one day you're running that bank.
Cool.
And it means a lot.
Very nice.
In terms of mottos, while I didn't have one kind of through my career, right when I got named president, my dad saw something in the paper that he cut out and gave to me. And it said, there's no elevator to the top. You have to take the stairs. And I said, wow. Yeah, I can live by those words. I just thought that was, I thought that was really fitting. And then just last week, sorry, Maureen, I'll be quiet in a half a second. Just last week, I was at a Washington, D.C. summit for bankers with the American Bankers Association. And there was a speaker there that said that one of his bosses, and we are going, way back, had said to him, if you say to yourself, I could have, if I would have, it means you should have. And I love that. I thought that was pretty inspiring.
You want to repeat it so we can all write it down?
Yes, I'll say that slower. If you say to yourself, I could have, if I would have, then you should have.
Yeah. Thanks.
Very nice.
Maureen?
One of the things I'd say, it's a bit of a motto I've learned. It was actually from a lawyer who probably reduced his own billable hours by sharing this approach with me, but it really resonated, and it kind of came into play both in work and at life. And it was, don't sacrifice the good for the perfect. And that's that, you can get paralyzed sometimes by debating and researching and editing and stressing out and just not making a decision because you're so afraid it's not the perfect one. But at some point you can't get to 100, sure you're all at 100% all the time, but you just gotta go ahead and say, it's the right thing to do, and we're going to make it work. And you do. And, like I said before, you can't look back once you do that, but you gotta at some point make that decision to go ahead and not continue to wait for forever for the right thing to come forward. So
that's
and
great.
then I say in terms of things in mementos, I guess there's 2. One is a plaque that I got when I got an award early in my career for women in the water industry, and a leadership plaque. But the funny thing to me was it was named after a gentleman from decades ago. And the language on the plaque says something about for leading the men in the water industry. And I said, see, they still haven't gotten it. So I use that one. And right next to it is this little paper kite from my son, probably when he was in 3rd grade. And it is move with me no matter which office I'm in. And it's just one of those things to kind of remind you that the two things have to come together, both your work life and family life. So
that's great. Thank you. So I have one question that I've been dying to ask, and Hannah, I'm sorry I didn't put it down on the list of things. So you both have such incredible positions in such dynamic industries. I mean, what keeps you up at night? And if you say nothing, I'm going to feel terrible because I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
You want to go first, Maureen?
There's plenty that keeps me up at night. I literally keep my phone by the desk, by my bedside. Now I need to put my glasses on every time I do it to write down what I'm thinking about, because otherwise I'll continue to stay up all night. So, that's there, just the little things that you got to remember to do. But I guess, probably the big ticket items are, making sure we continue to keep the good employees, motivate the employees to stay. We depend on them every day for whether it's, turning the valves, running the office, treating the water, that kind of stuff. So making sure we continue to be a place that people want to work at. And then I think the other one that should keep every one of us awake at night, and probably you do, Diane, is all the cybersecurity stuff. And no matter what we're doing in the real world and trying to do for defending against that, it's just like, it's out there and it keeps getting worse. Personally, I've been hacked and more times than I'd like to admit. And, you just wonder when that's going to get you as a business and what that could do to you. So.
Yeah, so I would agree. Cybersecurity is definitely right at the top of the list. Being in the banking industry, obviously, that is, a huge concern for us. We've had a lot of customers get hacked, and when we see what happens from a financial standpoint, when that happens and the various routes they're using, we've had our customers have their email hacked where they'll hack into a chain and send an invoice to one of their customers and say, and send the money here. Right now that's gone. So that's certainly a concern for us. The wage increases that are coming, I will say that is another one that keeps me awake at night and should keep all small business owners awake as well. I understand the need to raise minimum wage because people have to have a living wage, and it's really hard here in Connecticut, especially to afford to live. But while you love to raise the boat for everybody, all that does is put pressure on the top, right? So how do you make enough money or trim other expenses in a way that allows you to pay those increases in salaries? And so that's one we're facing, directly here at the bank. And then how do you stay relevant in this ever-changing world? Without a doubt, in our industry, whoa, we all need water, Maureen. We will be coming to you forever. But in the banking world, with all the changes that are happening at absolutely lightning speed, and the pandemic just threw it into warp speed. It was already coming fast, and it just really took a quantum leap. How do we stay relevant? How do we provide the services that our customers need? How do we keep our employees, on the cutting edge with us? And that's where I need my team. Maureen, you said before, you don't have to know how to do everything. You just need the people around you that do. Boy, am I in that boat. I need the younger ones to say, this is what we need to do, and this is how it works. And I so appreciate their input and their skills.
Well, that means that we just have to have another chapter of this conversation, because that's so open-ended now. So, but I'll turn it over there. I don't know if there are any raised hands. I'll stop my questions and then I will wrap it up, because you ladies are amazing.
Maureen,
go ahead, Diane.
I'm sorry, Cynthia, before you wrap it up, you asked me earlier what women of fire meant, and I never answered that, did I?
Yes, please do. I mean, it was like Women of Fire. And
so it just stands for finance, investment, and real estate. So the commercial record recognizes a group of women every year who are outstanding in those 3 fields. So
thank you for reminding me. But I would turn it around to say, I think you wear Wonder Woman capes and you are Women of Fire, both of you. And we can douse it out with Connecticut water.
Yeah, there you go.
Any questions?
So I'm just waiting to see if anybody puts anything in the chat or raises their hand, but I actually have one. So I'll kick it off. Come on. And I know somebody out there is just dying to ask something. So we've talked about your favorite things at work and the things that inspire you at work. And we all hear about needing to keep really good balance in our lives, particularly in the pandemic, because we were working very differently. So I would like to know what your favorite non-work thing to do is.
Good question.
How do you keep your wellness?
Good question.
I should
wanna
say
go
it's got to go to the gym and all those good things, but it's not. I can't tell a lie. I am a big UConn basketball fan, like many people around. So that's gets us through the winters that way. And Michelle, who works with me, knows I'm a professional shopper, so I get great pleasure out of retail therapy. So, and as well as travel. I love to travel. We had to put that on hold during the pandemic, of course, but can't wait to get it back out and be able to do that again.
And I'm a boater. So my happy place is absolutely on the water, on my boat. I actually have a sign in my boat that says, "This is my happy place." If you saw the pictures in my office, they are all water-based. So a little like you, Maureen, that is without a doubt what keeps me grounded. And even throughout the pandemic, I would leave here on Friday night and run down to the marina and not go home till Sunday late in the day, so that I could recharge.
Great.
Diane, what's the name of your boat?
Moving on.
Moving on. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Any questions?
Anyone else have questions? Go ahead, Ethan.
Not a question, but really just a comment and observation. First, thank you both so much, Maureen and Diane, for giving us insights into your amazing careers. And Diane and I have worked closely for, gosh, what, 13 years, I think it
I
is.
think so, yeah.
And we see each other walking in the neighborhood from time to time. But I just wanted to, just congratulate and thank you, for inspiring us today. It's really been a joy to listen to your stories.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know Maura had one in the chat, and my speed reading failed me.
Oh, I actually type faster than I talk. So I would love either of you to comment on, and in the chat, I said, as you've gotten more senior in your careers, and then I said, getting older, whether that's changed your approach to the risk aspect of both of your businesses. Is it kind of, oh yes, been there, done that, seen that, or is it, do you get like, oh God, this is terrible? I'd love you to just comment briefly on that.
First day.
Sorry, you got shifted around, Maureen. Go ahead.
I guess I don't think of it so much as I probably know more of the risks than I did earlier in my career. So I know the things I should be looking out for that I probably didn't earlier on. So I think that's one thing that's changed the way I look at it. And I think also at this point in my career, I'm kind of thinking about, how is what I'm doing today going to be there for the person that's there after me or 5 years from now or whatever. And you can't make decisions that are quick and easy now if it's at the expense of the long term. So I guess that has elevated my attention about how I can be making good choices now, because I'll tell you, the people 35 years behind me did things that have made my life easier in terms of tough things they did in their careers that then position the organization to be stronger today than it would have otherwise been. So I try to think of it in those terms.
And I think for me, I have to think a little bit differently. My whole career was in commercial lending. So I was always focused on the risk of the lending portfolio. I mean, in a not in a myopic way, but that was always my primary concern, my primary thought process. When you become the president of the bank, the biggest risk for me now is making sure that the 83 employees here have a job, receive a bonus, have a place to come to work, and carrying on the legacy of the 171-year-old bank that I'm now tasked with leading and managing. So, do I look at it differently? Yeah, I look at it a lot differently now.
Mhm.
I look at it because I feel I have a responsibility for the entire team. So it is a little different thought process than it was going in.
Thank you.
Anyone else there?
Anyone else? No, Margaret unfortunately had to leave us, but she did say thank you very much. So we did get that message. Anyone else?
Diane, since Maureen has a lot of water behind her, I think you need to put your Zoom background as a big pile of cash.
There you go, or cryptocurrency. If we could picture what that is. Oh.
It doesn't exist, so I don't know how to say what that is.
So no other questions there?
Nope, I think, no.
So let me just, if I may, just close with a little bit. Everybody who's on this Zoom call is just absolutely fascinating and wonderful. And Diane and Maureen, you lead the pack on all of that. So we have a saying here, good people who do great things, we love them. And so we love all of the things that you do. But I have to say that what I took away from this really is it's the we before me that you both do. And all the lessons learned, the working hard and just relying on other people, not just yourself. And the one thing that I didn't mention in your intros was community. Community is obviously very important to you. And so thank you for giving back, not only in the work that you do. Look at the cat. But, you really do believe in where you live, work, and play. So thank you for that. And for those of you who know us, you know that at all of our sessions, virtual, not all of them, but we do little pop-up grants. So Maureen and Diane, we'd like you to think about what little grant you'd like to give to your favorite nonprofit in Middlesex County, and you can email us. So it's a virtual pop-up grant for both of you.
Neat. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, ladies, for a wonderful afternoon. We can't wait to have you live and in person. And everyone else on the call. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.